It's Tiffany Lorraine Galloway with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. We're going to continue the subject of resistance versus resilience. What are we talking about? We're talking about that moment where you realize that you have a choice. You can keep doing what you're doing and resist the things that you need to work on, or you can step into your resilience. And with me today, I have Crystal Jordan, who is an autism advocate, and she's going to share her perspective on this subject. Crystal, thank you for being here. Tell us more about you.
Hi, you guys. So like she said, I am Crystal Jordan. I am an autism advocate. I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a cousin. I'm a niece. I'm an auntie. And most importantly, I'm a mom. Then my son is autistic, and he's the reason why I started. You hear him in the background. He's the reason why I started being an autism advocate. Not initially, but he's the reason behind it.
And my son's the reason I started this podcast, so I feel you there. I love that theme. Motherhood sure brings us to do things we may not have ever seen ourselves doing before and stretch us to grow. And we can resist that or we can embrace it. And it sounds like you found a way to embrace it. So tell me more about how you discovered your son was autistic, or if that whole story of how that journey began.
Okay, I discovered my son was autistic when he was 2, but before that, I'm gonna back up. When he was 8 months, his doctor told me that he suspect that he was autistic, and then my best friend told me, and then his godmother at the time said, "Hey, I think he's autistic." But of course, I ignored them because I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about." The doctor, I was like, "Nah, I know you got an autistic son, but you don't know." So I waited, and then once he hit 1 and he wasn't talking, or he wasn't fully walking yet, and he wasn't hitting those milestones, I said, maybe something isn't right. So then I end up going to the doctor, and I walked in, and normally she don't take walk-ins, right? And she said, "I know you're ready now because you're here." And she gave me a referral for the Market Center located in Atlanta, Georgia. It's like the best in the East Coast. She gave me a referral, and when she gave me the referral, I was still trying to process my son may be autistic. I still didn't know what autism was. I still wasn't versed in it yet, like I am today. And once that happened, he was diagnosed in October of 2019, right before COVID had hit. That Friday, he was diagnosed. I took him to the fair. As I took him to the fair, I ended up, I was crying. I was in my feelings. I grieved for 2 days. And those 2 days, I processed him. And I let go of anything I imagined he would be, because I had to shed what I thought he was going to be. So in those 2 days, I did that. That Monday, I started calling ABA, speech, OT, therapies like that to get him prepared for life. Now, I know you're like, what happened? In that moment, I was like, okay, I have to believe my son is going to be the best he can be. And I have to be his advocate. Now, at that point, I was not going to be nobody else's advocate or advocate for anybody else. I was just thinking about my child. And that's my answer to your question.
That's a beautiful story. A lot of women have motherhood change them, or they find out they have a child with a disability or mental illness or something like that. And that's not what we expect. And we love our babies. We love them. They're perfect to us, however they come to us. And we don't want to believe anything's wrong with us. So it makes sense that there was a little resistance there, because we all have these expectations, I think. And we want to do what's best, and we want to love at the highest level. And then something might shift it. And then something might make that what that love's going to look like different, how we're going to show up different. And I love that you embraced it, because that's what we're talking about today, resistance versus resilience. Where do you need to change? We've had mothers on here who've had addictions and had to recognize, hey, I need help. We've had mothers on here that are foster moms who decided to adopt the kids. We've had surrogate mothers on here, all sorts of mothers. And their story is unique, special, and precious to them and the children that they bring. It's still a sacred journey. Motherhood is sacred no matter what it looks like. And you get to embrace it. And whatever you're resisting might be the thing that actually takes you to that next level of motherhood, takes you to that next level of love that was meant for you. And it sounds like you did that for your son. But not only that, now you're advocating for others. So what shifted that?
I love that question. And I want to tell the audience, what you hear in the background is my son. This is a perfect example. You guys hear him stemming at this moment, and he's vocally stemming as of right now. He's quiet, but when you hear me talking, he get loud, he's stemming. Okay, so what made me advocate for other people? I want to say, I'm going to get into the story where I become an advocate. So God gave me the title advocate and people. I literally wrote a book called Just Like You. And when I wrote the book, I wrote it because I needed him to be represented. Because when I was looking for books about autism awareness, children books that are relatable, I seen beautiful blue-eyed kids. I seen a race that wasn't my baby. So I said, okay, I need to write a book. And I wrote a book out of hobby for fun. And it looked just like him. But when I wrote the book, I put resources in there. I put what is autism and signs and symptoms. So at that point, people started to think I was an advocate. I was at that point when I wrote this book, I actually was not an advocate. I literally did it to make sure he was represented. That's it. And I started getting asked to be on podcasts and stuff like that. And I started getting interviewed, and people interviewed me as an advocate. And I said, well, I guess I'm an advocate. That's how that happened. Now, how's I advocating for other people? Now I can get to your question, because I wanted to make sure that is noted. I'd never called myself an advocate in the beginning. In the beginning, I was a mom on a mission trying to normalize a conversation around autism, acceptance, and awareness. That was the beginning, but we're not there no more. We're somewhere else. I'm a lot bigger than that now. My thing is, I started advocating for parents when I put myself on Parents to Parent in Georgia, the website, and parents call me to advocate for their kids. I go into the school systems. I advocate for what their kid need. Sometimes this only happened one time. I may not advocate for what the parent need because you're hurting your kid. And me being a true advocate, I may look at you and say that isn't right. And so that has happened before. That parent was very upset with me. I can't go into full detail because of HIPAA. And it's funny, I'm not a certified advocate. I became an advocate through passion, experience, and learning the law and learning the do's and don'ts and creating an IEP and stuff like that. 2025 is when I'm actually going to get certifications and everything. But I started because I saw the need. I remember when I did my first IEP, I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know about parent rights. I didn't know anything. I went in blind. I meet so many parents like me who don't know anything. And I just did it scared. The first parent I advocated for, I did it scared.
It's such a beautiful story, because you were just solving a problem for your child, and all of a sudden you're doing it for a way bigger audience, because you decided to be proactive and not to sit there alone. You're like, this isn't here, I'm going to make it. And whether you realize it or not, the minute you gave those resources, you were advocating for other people. The minute you gave somebody a voice who didn't know they had a voice or didn't know that that was possible, you made it possible. It's such a beautiful legacy to leave for your son too, because look what you created. Like, this is,
I know,
with you. Like,
I love it so much.
So beautiful.
I don't know. I literally just did it for a hobby. And it's funny. I didn't even realize, now you said it, I didn't even realize I was advocating for other people. I literally created it. I created 2 books when I first came out, and I literally created it for him. And people was like, oh my God, Crystal, I love it. And people started using it for their families, like to advocate and teach them about autism. And I was like, oh, I wrote it for fun. I'm not an author. And then when I realized I really was an author, I was like, oh my God, I'm really an author.
There you go.
Ain't that crazy? I was like, oh my God, I'm really an author. And when people start calling me an advocate, I took the call, and I'm here today. So
yeah, I got mistaken. I kind of know how you feel, because during COVID, I put a lot of positive stuff out there. And because I got mistaken as a coach. And after like 30 people saying, you're a coach, right? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm a coach. Like, so I can understand that as well. I'm like, oh, this is what I am, because people are saying I am. Okay. And then you just have
That's literally how it happened. I said, okay, I'm an autism advocate. And then I really, once I started calling myself that, what I just said, I literally changed. And I can see the change. I went and watched all my old podcast interviews I ever did. I could see the change from then to now. Then I was being called it, and I didn't realize I was already that. Now I'm in this path, and I'm like, oh my God, Like, people really look up to me. The amount of DMs I get, the calls I get, the impact that I know I make in people's lives, and how I empower people, not just through my autism business, but through my magazine. I know my calling is to empower other people.
And I think that's
And to
wonderful
empower
for your
myself.
son because he gets to see his mama at her best and doing what she's meant to do. And you certainly want that for him someday. And
He's
we
hilarious.
have to be the example of that. Our children are only going to aspire to the level that we do. And I love that you're on your path to your greatness because that will be what your son strives for too. Is to be, look what mama did. Mama was an author. Mama was an advocate. I can be those things too. I think that's a wonderful part of it. While we're on here, I'm wondering about some of those resources that you found for autism or some of the things that you're doing to help your son that might help other moms or someone who's also new to this journey and maybe resisting what is going on with their child. How can we help that mom?
So my advice to you, if it's a mom that's watching or listening, because I know we do audio as well, number one is breathe. Well, the reason I say breathe as a resource is that resource is within. You cannot pour into your child if you're pouring from a half fill cup. I believe in pouring into your kid through your overflow. So you have to take care of yourself. Now let's get into the resources. It's so many different, based on your insurance. This is a nugget. You can get free pull-ups depending on your insurance. You can get a custom car seat depending on your insurance. You can get a bed, which is designed for your kiddo, depending on your insurance. Now, this one is between you and the doctor. My son elopes, so I got a handicap parking. That's a resource because I need to park in the front because my son used to dodge out because he was unaware. Now we don't do it no more, but I still have handicap parking, which I love because I have sciatica and sometimes I can't walk that far. So, blessing. Another resource is you guys can look up therapies in your area. Like, what therapy is good for you? Like, my son do play therapy. That is not traditional therapy, but you pay out of pocket. You have horseback riding therapy, ABA. And I also recommend just typing in nonprofits near you for you can see what resources are near you.
Oh, I love all of that. And you just proactively went out and found those yourself, or did you have someone help guide you along the way with any of this?
99% was me. 1% was my son's RBT at the time and his BCBA when he was 3. I'm gonna get him 15. I'm gonna get him 15%. They actually did kind of help me and along the way, but most of the things I learned myself.
Gotcha. I love how proactive you are with that. And I don't mind hearing your son in the background at all. Like, I'm wondering, what is day-to-day life like for you as a child with autism? I actually don't know. I'm curious, what are some of the things that you do to help you stay resilient throughout the day and show up the way that you want to for your child?
So one thing about autism and my day-to-day life, my son is nonverbal. Sometimes may say non-speaking or non-vocal, between those 3 terms. So our day-to-day is me trying to figure out what he wants. I actually have some words on the side of me because I'm actually working on it. He has a PEC system, and these are some of the words like tablet. Oh, sorry, snack. I gotta change. I'm changing these out. These are ones for school. I don't really like them, so I'm changing these out. But this is actually something that we do. We have a award system, and he just full of life. My son gets everything, and he has tantrums sometimes, but his tantrums are really outbursts because he wants something and we're saying no. Like right now, we're telling him, "Hey, going out with your grandma," and he think it's funny to be in here. He laughs every time my mom said, "Come here," and he's like, "No." All communication is a form. All behavior is a form of communication, and he's communicating through his actions. No, he don't want to go.
Yeah. I understand that can be difficult and a little bit frustrating at times, but my own son has interrupted me on this podcast and shown up and been on my lap. I totally relate. And I think there's a lot of moms out there that relate, especially this working from home thing that we do now. And I actually saw a video the other day of a really prestigious news anchor And the two kids, first the little son walked in, and then behind him came the daughter in the walker. And he just tried to ignore it and continue the news anchor thing. And then a nanny came in, and she isn't just kind of coming in. It's like she lost them and just found them and comes whirling in the room, grabs both the kids and pulls them out. And the gentleman there's just like, I'm just gonna apologize for that right now, and then kept going on. And I kind of laughed because I'm like, I think it's not just moms that happens. Our kids are a part of our lives. They're there. They're our everything. And yeah, they're going to show up sometimes in our podcasts and our lives and our Zooms because they're right there and they're a part of us in a lot of ways.
No lie. Sometimes they just show up, and he's said that tonight. Normally when I record at night, he actually never does this. He's never in the room with me. But today he's like, you know what? And it's funny, the title of the podcast match what's going on. Because he's being resilient. He's like, you know what? Every time his grandma say, come here, he's like, but he's not saying, he's laughing. But like I tell you all the time in most of my interviews, all behavior is a form of communication. He's communicating, no, I want to be right here. This is hilarious. This is funny. He's, you know what? He's nonverbal. He's full of personality. And what gets me the most is, because I used to do this. Most people think because the kid or the adult is nonverbal or non-speaking or non-vocal, they believe that they don't understand. They understand. They just not listening to you in this moment. And he just, because he keep leaving and he comes right back. I think I know he did. He stole my drink. He was
resilient, mama.
I was oh no, I hit it. Yeah, he loves Coca. I know this is not an ad placement, but he loves Coca-Cola. I love it. I grew up with it. It's my favorite drink in the whole wide world. It's his too. And I thought he snatched it because he does this thing where he's like being affectionate and loving. But honestly, he could be trying to get something he really wants. The only thing that's over here that he can really want is, because in my bed it's full of paperwork that I need to do and books. Because I'm single, so ain't nothing in my bed.
Yeah. You're here, sister. Lots of extra pillows. I get you. Well, look at you being resilient in all the ways. And it's fun to hear what autism is. I don't know what it's like because I don't have an autistic child. I did study a little bit to be a speech therapist for a while. So I did get to see some of the things you were talking about with the horse therapy and some things I did in a job shadow. And it's beautiful work, but it really takes special people and it takes a special mother. And I think that something that's comforting for a lot of moms is to realize your child chose you because they knew you could handle it. Because they knew you were going to love on them. And I find a lot of comfort in that with my own children, especially when they're giving me a hard time. So I know it's good for the both.
Because now he's giving me a hard time. And it's kind of comical because he's going to come back. I think he's waiting like, okay, she's going to get good in her thought. And then I'm here. But he's the reason why I'm an autism advocate. So I cannot, for me, I have been working on my patience a lot more lately. Like my son is not potty trained, and when he do number 2, he gets it everywhere. Like even on the toilet, on the sink, in the tub. It's a hot mess. I used to be mad and I used to scream at him, right? So I took this new approach a couple weeks ago. I literally, when he does it, I go to the bathroom. I'm like, yay, go Zach, because number 1. He went to the bathroom. Number 2, he tried to clean himself. Now, does he do a good job? Absolutely not. It's terrible. But it's the I'm reinforcing the behavior. Like, you're doing a good job. We're not there. We're far from there, but we're getting there. So I'm proud of you. So I give him a high five. He having poop on his hand, and I still give him the high five. I'd be like, high five. And then I'd be like, yay. And my mom would be like, you're not mad? I'd be like, I had to take a new approach. And even with me being an advocate, I've been changing my own approach with him. And I see the difference it gives with him. Because I'm really like, but now I'm like, it's okay. Give me a hug. What's wrong? And it's funny because it took me a minute to get to where I am today with him.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Like I'm navigating a teenager and it's definitely a different approach. Not the same as what you're dealing with, but like just my intention, how I get my intention across of that. I'm saying this to you because I love you, or I'm just here if you want to talk, or it's just different when they like kind of worship you and like want to be around you all the time. Like your son wants to be around you all the time right now. Like I want to be with mom. I want to do this thing with you all the time. And then they have this, they start pulling away and it changes. And there's just different aspects of that. And if something isn't working, it's really important to recognize that you can do something different. We had another mom on here who talked about yelling at her child as well. And she's like, I don't want to show up this way. I don't want to be like this. This is not the mom that I want to be. And she talked about how it was kind of generational patterns and some generational healing that she needed to do, or one stopped drinking. Like there's all these things that just motivate us to have to find a new solution and look at it from a different angle and find a new way to approach it. And not only that, but I'm glad someone told me every child is different. And then they change too. So the approach may work now, but then you might have to do another one. And as an advocate, I'm sure like you're just sharing every resource along the way of, okay, well, that didn't work anymore. Now this is working, or well, here's another resource, or here's how it's going. And that helps somebody else who's dealing with it realize they're not alone. And also every situation's going to be unique. And that's where the mother instinct has to come in, where you kind of trust your ability to know this is what's right for my child. And I know my child, and only a mom has that. And only a mom can really give that. And I want more moms who are hearing this to trust that, whether you have a child with autism or a perfectly healthy child who's just challenging because maybe they have the same personality as you. Like they definitely make us grow one way or another. and just trust yourself that you're going to know what to do or what to try to give it a new approach.
I love that. I changed my approach because I noticed it wasn't working. So I'm like, yelling at him isn't working. And it makes him cry. And I've been noticed it makes him cry. So I have already changed my approach before, but when it comes to the poop, I never did. So I said, let me change it more. Let me work on this more. So there's certain things in our everyday routine I'm purposely looking at and working on. Like I said, I'll record a video of me and my son, which I barely do. If I see something that I did that I feel is wrong, I will go apologize to my son. Now he's nonverbal. That doesn't mean he doesn't understand. So
yeah. I apologize to my kids on a regular basis. I'm like, I'm just figuring this out too. So, we're gonna figure this out together, okay? But yeah, being their safe space has got to be so important, especially when they're nonverbal. And I think speaking of nonverbal, I mean, when they're babies, when they're in the womb, technically they're nonverbal then. Like it starts at the very beginning. Our feelings, our thoughts, they're very in tune to our emotions. So even if we don't use harsh words, they can still feel those harsh emotions. And we have to learn how to rein that in because that's about us. It's not about them. And often our kids will sometimes trigger things in us that are from our childhood, and we won't even realize why it bothers us. But it's because of something that was done to us, or we were yelled at, or the way we were treated, or we weren't allowed to have a voice or something like that. So it's not about us. So we really have to, I love what you said at the beginning about breathing. We sometimes need to take a step back and breathe and just evaluate, okay, what are my intentions here? What's really going on? What level is that child at? How can I meet them where they're at? And how can I let them know my intention for their best interest and that I love them in this moment? And another mom said something that really made me think. And she said that because she had a loss in her family, that now when she approaches her child and she has a difficult situation or something come up, are these the last words I want my child to hear from me? Oof. Boy, that changes how you think about it a little bit when you think that.
Wow. That means somebody close to her passed and she must have said something to them that was hurtful. And that was the last memory she had with that person. So that's really unfortunate that even happened to her. But unfortunately, that's life. We don't know our last moments. We don't know when we don't know. We can go to sleep today and not wake up tomorrow. And that is something that is a part of life. It's a sad part of life. But yeah.
Yeah. And our kids just have such an impression that like our words have so much power as well, that they'll stay with them for the rest of their life. There are phrases and things that my father has said that were not the best things that are still there. Like, I'm going to have to go do work on that now. And so, but I have awareness. Like, that's the big thing. Like, I'm seeing this level of awareness that you have on this journey with your son with autism that someone else might not have. And that's why they want you to be the advocate. That's why they want you to speak, because you're embracing it and you're going along with it. Even the really tough, hard stuff with potty training and things that, like, I'm sure they can't even imagine what that's like. But you're willing to be aware that worked. That didn't work. That made my child upset. It didn't, even though he can't verbalize it to me. I can see it in the body language. I can hear it in the tone. I can feel my child and still be able to advocate in that way. And that's just a beautiful thing. And I'm sure that's why a lot of people admire what you're doing and want you to be the person to help guide them on this journey. And I'm just honored to have you here today. Any last thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah. So, any last thoughts? If I can give a mom who has a child on a spectrum, daughter or son, my advice to you is put yourself first. I know that sounds crazy. Put yourself first. Don't forget your hair day, your nail day, and your fitness days. And make sure you continue to pour into who you are, because you cannot pour into your child or your autistic special needs child without pouring into you. That's the biggest takeaway that I personally know. Like, I went through depression. I went through postpartum, and I know when you don't pour into yourself and you're trying to pour, like, I can't give my child anything from this bottle because it's almost empty. And like, but from this bottle, I can give him so much more.
Yeah.
But if I pour in this bottle, it's going to be an overflow. And I can still feed him from my overflow. I can fill him up from my overflow. I use that because it's close things to me. But I want more moms to feel and feed their kids from their overflow and be in the moment and loving your kids, of course, but to take care of mom first. Because a lot of times you meet so many moms, they forget they was Tiffany before they was a mom, Crystal before they was a mom. I personally tell people I'm more than a mom. I don't play that. You see, I said mom at the end because I want you to know I'm more. I said everything else, and I put mom at the end because I'm more than a mom. But I am a mom to a beautiful, beautiful, handsome little black boy. Well, handsome black boy. I said handsome, Zachariah. But beyond that, I am Crystal, the business owner. I'm Crystal, the advocate. I'm Crystal, the author. So I want moms to be like, "What am I before I'm a mom?" That's my exercise to the mom and the viewer watching and listening. Who am I before I'm a mom? What am I? What is my path? When your kids leave the house to go to college, you should not be finding yourself. You should be already in your becoming her moment and figuring it out before that happens. So
Absolutely.
that's it.
How can they be a whole person if they don't see you being a whole person? How can they go out in the world fully prepared if they don't see you doing all the things that it takes to do that? And it may take trial and error. I will say that you may not know what fills your cup up quickly yet, and that's okay. You get to be curious. You get to explore. You got to go figure that out. And if you need a way to do that, I suggest just 5 minutes a day doing what I call 5 minutes of joy. Give yourself 5 minutes of whatever you love doing, going outside, playing music, cooking, reading. You can give yourself 5 minutes. And if it turns into a little bit more, that's okay too. But maybe you need those throughout the day. But it is doable. Just because you're mom 24/7 does not mean that that gives you permission to go burn yourself out. Then you're no good to anybody. You have to figure out that flow of give and take and give and take. Even if you have to be like, okay, mommy's battery is at 20 right now. Mommy needs a minute. I'll be back. Now mommy's at 50. Mommy, like, there's ways to communicate this with your kids as well of where you're at. And then they know that too. And they can communicate that with you of what levels they're at. And if they need more fullness, like my little guy once, I'll be like, I need cuddles. I need cuddles. I'm like, okay, you need some affection and some touch right now and a hug. And he communicates that with me, right? But if I didn't give him permission, then I wouldn't know what he needs, right? So I have to give them permission to communicate what they need. But I have to know what I need. If I don't know what I need, how do they know what they need? How do they know how to communicate it? Like it's a big part of things, but it's that whole saying
And
of,
that's why I said that.
yeah,
That's the reason why I said it, because we don't know. Like
yeah.
a lot of moms don't realize they're more than just mom. I didn't mean to cut you off, but a lot of moms
Oh, no,
don't realize
no.
they're more than just mom. And it's important that we as moms realize that, especially being in 2025. We should know, let's take care of ourselves. Let's make sure we're pouring into ourselves. Let's make sure that I'm good. If mama not good, how can your kids be good? How can
Yeah.
you not be good and your husband or your spouse is good? Like
If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
exactly.
So you are allowed to be happy. It's your choice. You get to figure out how to do that. And then your kids will know that too. It's something you get to create. Oh, Crystal, it's wonderful talking to you. And whether I can serve you as high performance habits, or you find another episode that relates to you, or you want to work with Crystal, know that we're here. Where can they find you if they want to work with you, Crystal?
So you guys, you can find me on all social media platforms. Super simple. I am Crystal Jordan on Instagram, TikTok. I think it's now everything's the same. If you want to email me to be an advocate or work with you, it's crystaljordanadvocate@gmail.com. Or if you want to support my books, you go to zachariaworld.com, or you can buy my books from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Walmart, and so many other places you can buy my books, you guys. And I do have one for autistic girls because they're dying least than boys. It will be the cover with her. And as my I Am Awesome series is a positive reinforcement book to have positive affirmations for your autistic kids. I have one for boys, autistic kids, and autistic girls. And I just want to say thank you for letting me be on your podcast and share my story of resilience and being a mom.
I'm happy to share it, and I'm sure the audience loves it. If you want to continue this conversation, go ahead and make some comments down below so we can keep the conversation going with you. If you have questions, or if you want to reach out to either of us, that information will be down below as well. We're happy to help you along in your resilient mother journey or adventure, however you would like to phrase it. All right. I believe in you, believe in yourself. God bless, and we'll see you next time on the Resilient Mother podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Please don't forget to subscribe so we can share this message. We are a worldwide podcast with guests all around the world, and we want to continue to grow this community. You can find us on socials. You could also be a guest. Look for that link below if you'd be interested in being a guest on the podcast. If you know a sponsor or would like to be a sponsor, please reach out to me or Catherine as well.
Sure. We want you all on this journey. We want to hear your stories. We want to share your stories. We want to gain strength from each other because together we're stronger. And to never forget the blessing of being a mother and what we're creating. We're creating the future every single day of our lives. So get on this train with us and let's do this thing, moms.
I believe in you. Believe in yourself. God bless, and we'll see you around. Take care.